The massive alien ship appeared over New York without warning. Its smooth silver surface reflected the morning sun, casting strange shadows over the city below. The world held its breath, watching through countless screens and devices as humanity faced its first official contact with alien life. Inside the United Earth Defense Headquarters in Geneva, Commander James Walker stood straight-backed before the main display. His weathered face showed no fear, though his hand tightened slightly on the back of his chair. 20 years of military service hadn't prepared him for this moment. "Sir, they're broadcasting on all frequencies," reported Technical Officer Robert Smith, his fingers flying over the control panel. "They're requesting, no, demanding, to speak with Earth's leaders." Walker nodded slowly. "Put them through to the main chamber. Alert the World Council." The alien that appeared on the massive screen wasn't what anyone expected. It looked almost human, except for its gray skin and large, entirely black eyes. It wore what appeared to be a formal robe made of shifting colors. "I am Ambassador Gray of the Galactic Council," it announced in perfect English. "We have been watching your civilization for some time. Your recent technological advances have forced us to intervene." Walker felt a chill run down his spine. "Intervene?" he asked, keeping his voice steady. "We weren't aware we needed intervention, Ambassador." The alien's expression shifted to something like a smile, but there was no warmth in it. "Your species has developed faster than any we have encountered. In the past century alone, you've moved from primitive combustion engines to quantum computing. It's reckless, dangerous." The World Council members, now gathered in the chamber, exchanged worried looks. Walker noticed President Thompson's face harden at the word primitive. "We've worked hard for our advances," Walker replied carefully. "Our people have sacrificed much to reach this point." Ambassador Gray waved a long-fingered hand dismissively. "Irrelevant. The Council has determined that Earth requires supervision. You will submit to our authority. We will guide your development at an appropriate pace." The chamber erupted in angry murmurs. Walker raised his hand for silence. "And if we refuse?" he asked, though he already suspected the answer. "Refusal is not an option," Gray stated flatly. "You have 30 standard days to begin the integration process. You will dismantle your quantum research facilities. You will cease all artificial intelligence development. You will submit your military forces to Council control." Walker stepped forward, his voice firm. "Ambassador, with all due respect, Earth is a sovereign world. We've earned our place among the stars. We won't surrender our independence to those who view us as primitive, no matter how advanced they claim to be." The alien's black eyes seemed to darken further. "You misunderstand, Commander Walker. This is not a negotiation. We have observed how your species solves problems, through conflict and chaos. The Council will not allow such instability to spread beyond your world." "We solve problems through innovation," Walker corrected. "Through determination. Through unity in the face of those who would oppress us. Humanity has faced extinction-level threats before, Ambassador. We're still here. Your pride will be your downfall," Gray warned. "You have 30 days. Choose wisely." The transmission cut off abruptly. In the silence that followed, President Thompson stood up. "Commander Walker, what are our options?" Walker turned to face the assembled leaders, his expression grim but determined. "They showed their hand too early. They're afraid of us, of our potential. That gives us an advantage." He gestured to the tactical display. "They think they know everything about us. But I'm willing to bet they've underestimated humanity. They always do." "And if they attack?" someone asked. Walker smiled slightly. "Then they'll learn what humans do best. The impossible." He turned to Technical Officer Smith. "Send out the alert. All military facilities on high alert. And activate Project Phoenix. It's time to show the galaxy that humanity won't bow to threats." As the chamber burst into activity, Walker looked up at the blank screen where the alien had been. 30 days to prepare for a fight against the most powerful force in the galaxy. He'd faced worse odds. Probably. Director White looked out the window of his ship as it descended through Earth's atmosphere. His assessment team had been studying human broadcasts for weeks, but seeing their cities up close was different. The sprawling metropolises weren't as advanced as council worlds, but they had a unique energy to them, a constant buzz of activity and change. Fascinating architecture, he muttered, noting how the humans mixed old stone buildings with modern structures of steel and glass. They don't tear down their history to build their future. The council ship landed at the designated meeting point, a military base outside London. Commander Anna Steele waited on the landing pad, her uniform crisp and professional. White had read her file. She was one of Earth's top military innovators, though by council standards, she should have been far too young for such responsibility. "Welcome to Earth," she said as White and his team exited their ship. "We've prepared demonstrations of our capabilities as requested." White nodded, his gray skin shimmering in the sunlight. "Let's not waste time. Show me these innovations your people are so proud of." The first stop was a weapons testing range. Steele picked up what looked like a primitive projectile weapon. "This is our standard rifle," she explained. "Nothing special by your standards, I'm sure." White almost laughed. Projectile weapons. The council moved beyond those thousands of years ago. Steele smiled and fired at the target. The bullet curved in midair, avoiding all obstacles before hitting the bullseye. "Smart ammunition," she explained. "Each bullet has a tiny AI guidance system. Low-tech solution, high-tech execution." White's amusement faded. The council had banned AI integration in weapons centuries ago. Too unpredictable, they'd decided. Yet here were the humans, casually merging technologies that shouldn't work together. The next demonstration was worse. Steele led them to a hangar where engineers were working on what appeared to be a damaged council scout ship. "We found this crashed in the desert last year," she said casually. "Interesting design. We've made some improvements." White's heart nearly stopped. The ship's original crystal matrix processors had been replaced with human quantum computers. Primitive Earth metals had been integrated with advanced alien alloys. It shouldn't have worked, but according to the engineer's data, the hybrid ship was now faster and more maneuverable than the original. "This is impossible," one of White's assistants muttered. "Their technology is too primitive to interface with council systems." "That's humanity's secret," Steele said, her voice proud. "We don't accept impossible. We just haven't found the solution yet." The final demonstration was the most disturbing. Steele led them to a secure facility deep underground. Inside, hundreds of humans worked at terminals, while holographic displays showed complex calculations and simulations. "Our AI research facility," Steele explained. "We've made some interesting breakthroughs in machine consciousness and quantum computing." White watched in growing horror as the humans demonstrated AI systems that adapted and evolved in real time, solving problems in ways he'd never seen before. The council's AI was stable, predictable, safe. This was something else entirely. "You're playing with forces you don't understand," White warned. "This level of AI development is dangerous." Steele's expression hardened slightly. "We understand perfectly well, Director. We also understand why the Council is so afraid of our progress." Back on his ship that evening, White prepared his report to the Council. His hand shook slightly as he recorded his findings. "Earth's technological development is proceeding along unprecedented patterns," he dictated. "They take advanced concepts and implement them using primitive materials and methods that shouldn't work but do. Their AI research alone represents a significant threat to Council stability. Most concerning is their rate of adaptation. In the time since Ambassador Gray's ultimatum, they've already developed countermeasures to standard Council weaponry." He paused, considering his next words carefully. "I must recommend immediate action. The humans are dangerous not because they are primitive, but because they are unpredictable. They don't follow normal technological development patterns. They don't respect the established rules of scientific advancement. And most worryingly, they don't know what they're not supposed to be able to do." White sent the report, then looked down at Earth through his viewport. For the first time in his long career as an assessor, he felt genuinely afraid of a primitive species. The Council had made a serious mistake. They hadn't contained humanity. They had challenged them. The Galactic Council's Grand Chamber was silent as Director White finished his report. The massive circular room, with its 1,000 floating seats arranged in ascending rings, had never felt so tense. The Council members, representatives of the galaxy's oldest civilizations, shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "This is outrageous," announced High Counselor Blue, his voice echoing through the chamber. "These humans dared to corrupt our technology, to merge it with their primitive machines." His skin darkened with anger, a sign of his species' emotional state. Ambassador Gray stood at the center of the chamber. "I warned you they were dangerous. We must act now, before their 30 days are up." They're clearly preparing for resistance. In the Earth Defense Command Center, Commander Walker watched the Council's broadcast with a grim smile. The aliens didn't realize their supposedly secure channel had been compromised weeks ago, thanks to the hybrid technology they so despised. "They're planning to strike early," reported Anna Steele, standing beside him. "Their ships are already moving into position." Walker nodded. "Just as we expected. Are our defenses ready?" "Yes, sir. Project Phoenix is fully operational. They have no idea what they're walking into." High above Earth, the Council's fleet appeared in a flash of light. 50 ships, each larger than the largest human spacecraft, arranged themselves in attack formation. Their silvery hulls gleamed in the sunlight, a display of overwhelming force meant to cow the primitive humans into submission. Ambassador Gray's face appeared on screens worldwide. "People of Earth, you have forced our hand. Submit now, or we will disable your military capabilities by force." Walker stepped forward to respond, his image replacing Gray's on the Council screens. "We have a saying on Earth, Ambassador. Don't bring a knife to a gunfight. Your primitive weapons cannot harm our ships." Gray sneered. "Our shields are powered by the energy of artificial stars." Walker smiled. "Who said anything about weapons?" He turned to Steele. "Commander, activate Phoenix." Around the Earth, thousands of hidden satellites suddenly powered up. They had been disguised as space debris, ignored by the Council's scans. Each one contained a quantum computer core salvaged from crashed alien ships, modified and improved by human engineers. The Council fleet's sensors blared warnings as their shields began to fail. Their artificial gravity flickered. Communication systems went dark. "Impossible," Gray shouted, his composed demeanor cracking. "How are you doing this?" "We studied the wreckage of your ships," Walker explained calmly. "Your technology is impressive, but predictable. You haven't truly innovated in centuries. We found the backdoors in your systems that even you had forgotten about." Steele stepped forward. "Your ships communicate with each other using quantum channels. Very advanced, but those same channels can be used to transmit our improved AI directly into your systems. Right now, thousands of human-designed programs are rewriting your ship's core functions." The Council fleet hung helpless in space as their own systems turned against them. Not a single shot had been fired. "Now then," Walker said, his voice firm but not unkind. "Let's discuss our terms." High Counselor Blue's voice shook with rage. "Terms? You dare to dictate terms to the Galactic Council?" "Yes," Walker replied simply. "Earth will not be controlled. We will not be limited. We offer friendship and cooperation as equals, or nothing at all." Steele added, "You have 30 minutes to decide. That's how long it will take our AI to completely take control of your fleet's life support systems." In the Council chamber, panic erupted as the reality of the situation sank in. Humanity hadn't just resisted. They had turned the Council's own technology against them. "One more thing," Walker added, allowing himself a small smile. "Next time you try to intimidate a primitive species, remember this: sometimes the most dangerous civilizations are the ones still hungry to learn, to grow, to innovate. Your greatest mistake wasn't underestimating our technology. He paused for effect. Your greatest mistake was underestimating human ingenuity. The Council had issued an ultimatum to Earth. Now Earth had answered with one of their own. And they had done it without firing a single shot. The age of Council dominance was over. The age of humanity had begun. Admiral Thomas watched from the bridge of his ship as another Council supply convoy disappeared into hyperspace, fleeing from Earth vessels that shouldn't have been able to find them, let alone threaten them. His small flotilla of ships had been harassing Council forces for weeks now, appearing where they least expected, using tactics that defied conventional space warfare. "Sir, Council reinforcements detected," his tactical officer reported. 3 heavy cruisers entering the system. Thomas smiled. "Right on schedule. Deploy the ghost drones." Small, unmanned ships launched from his fleet's hangars. They looked like little more than metal boxes with engines, built from scavenged parts and Earth technology. The Council ships ignored them, focusing their scans on the larger human vessels. That was their mistake. The drones vanished from normal space, using stripped-down versions of Council quantum drives modified by Earth engineers. They reappeared inside the Council ships' shield perimeters, their primitive-looking hulls concealing advanced electronic warfare systems. "Council ships are going dark," the tactical officer reported with satisfaction. "Their systems are completely scrambled." Thomas nodded. "Send the message. Same as always." On the Council ship's screens, a simple text message appeared. "Your shields are down. Your weapons are offline. Your engines are disabled. Retreat or be boarded. Choice is yours." The Council ships retreated. They always did. No one wanted to explain to the Council leadership how they'd been defeated by primitive human technology. Back at Earth Defense Command, Commander Walker reviewed the latest reports. The Council's attempt at an economic blockade of the solar system was failing spectacularly. Their ships couldn't stop Earth vessels from appearing inside Council space thanks to the modified quantum tunneling technology. Their supposedly unhackable communications were regularly intercepted by human AI systems. "Another successful raid," Anna Steele reported, entering his office. "Admiral Thomas's tactics are driving the Council commanders crazy. They can't predict where we'll strike next." "That's because we're not following their rulebook," Walker replied. "Their military doctrine hasn't changed in centuries. They'd forgotten how to adapt." Steele nodded. "Their technology is impressive, but they use it in such limited ways. They never expected anyone to modify their quantum drives for short-range tactical jumps or use AI to predict patrol patterns." A junior officer rushed into the room. "Sir, we're detecting massive Council fleet movements. They're gathering for something big." Walker pulled up the tactical display. Hundreds of Council ships were converging on key trading routes and military installations. It was meant to look like preparation for a major offensive. "They're getting desperate," he observed, "trying to intimidate us with a show of force." Steele studied the display. "But look at their formation. They're staying in large groups, concentrating their forces. They're scared of our hit-and-run tactics." "Fear makes them predictable," Walker said. "And predictable enemies make mistakes." He turned to his communications officer. "Send word to Admiral Thomas. Tell him Phase 2 begins now." Across Council space, human ships began appearing in supposedly secure systems. Instead of attacking, they made contact with younger species who had been watching Earth's resistance with growing interest. Many of these civilizations had their own grievances with the Council's controlling policies. On a dozen worlds, Council representatives watched helplessly as their carefully maintained order began to crumble. Humanity wasn't just resisting. They were inspiring others to resist as well. In his private chambers, Ambassador Gray watched the reports with growing dread. The humans weren't fighting the kind of war the Council knew how to win. They weren't trying to defeat the Council's superior numbers or technology. Instead, they were systematically demonstrating that the Council's power was an illusion. "Sir," his aide reported nervously, We're detecting quantum tunneling signatures in nearby systems. Human ships could appear anywhere, at any time. Gray dismissed the aide. He stared out at the stars, remembering Walker's words. Your greatest mistake was underestimating human ingenuity. The humans had turned the galaxy into their playground, using the Council's own technology in ways its inventors had never imagined. And they were just getting started. The Resistance wasn't just surviving. It was winning. The alien ship appeared in Earth's orbit without warning, its design unlike anything in the Council's fleet. Before Earth's defense systems could react, it transmitted a simple message. We want to learn. Commander Walker studied the ship's readings from the command center. Another one, he said. Third this week. The ship belonged to the Star People, a species the Council had labeled as developing. Like many others, they had been watching Earth's defiance with growing interest. Their technology is interesting, Commander Steele noted, reviewing the scans. They've developed along completely different lines than the Council. Their faster-than-light drive uses principles we've never seen before. Walker smiled. Exactly. The Council's been lying to everyone, including themselves. There isn't just one path to the stars. Every species finds their own way. The meeting room was crowded with representatives from a dozen different species. Some looked almost human, others were completely alien. All shared the same look of determination. The Council restricted our AI research, said the Star People's representative, their crystalline form shimmering. They said we weren't ready, but we developed quantum crystals that think differently than their computers. A representative of the desert worlds, their scaled skin reflecting the light, spoke next. They called our solar power systems primitive, but we can harvest energy from stars in ways their technology can't match. One by one, they shared their stories. Each species had developed technologies the Council had dismissed or forbidden. Each had been told they were primitive, not ready for full membership in galactic society. The Council doesn't want allies, Walker explained. They want subjects. But together, we can show the galaxy a different way. Admiral Thomas's voice came through the comm system. Commander, Council fleet detected. Biggest one yet. They're trying to shut us down before the alliance grows stronger. Walker looked around the room. Well, are we in this together? The answer was unanimous. High above Earth, the Council fleet emerged from hyperspace. 500 ships, the largest fleet they'd assembled in centuries. Ambassador Gray's voice boomed across all channels. This ends now. Surrender, or we will be forced to take decisive action. The response came not just from Earth, but from dozens of ships representing the new alliance. Each one used different technology, different methods, all of them supposedly primitive by Council standards. The Star People's crystalline ships phased through space in ways Council sensors couldn't track. The Desert Worlders' solar-powered vessels absorbed and redirected energy weapons. Earth's hybrid ships darted between them, coordinating the defense with their advanced AI. Impossible, Gray whispered as his fleet's formation broke apart. These technologies shouldn't work together. These species shouldn't be able to coordinate like this. That's your problem, Walker responded. You see differences as weaknesses. We see them as strengths. The battle was short. Council ships found their elaborate defenses useless against weapons they'd never encountered. Their perfect formations fell apart against tactics they'd never imagined. Their mighty fleet retreated in disarray. In the aftermath, more ships arrived. More species seeking alliance with Earth and the others, each bringing their own unique technologies, their own solutions to the challenges of space. The Council made one fundamental mistake, Steele said, watching the new arrivals. They thought forcing everyone to advance along the same path would make the galaxy stable. Instead, they stifled innovation. Progress comes from diversity, from finding new ways to solve old problems. Walker nodded. And now they're seeing what happens when those different paths come together. When we share knowledge instead of hoarding it. When we celebrate our differences instead of suppressing them. The alliance grew stronger each day. The Council's grip on power weakened. The galaxy was changing. And it all started because humanity refused to be called primitive. "Send word to all our allies," Walker ordered. "Phase 3 begins tomorrow. It's time to show the Council what real civilization looks like." The stars themselves seemed to shine brighter, as if anticipating the dawn of a new age in the galaxy. The Council's central archives were supposed to be impossible to breach. Generations of the galaxy's most advanced security technology protected its secrets. Yet somehow, a human hacker named Mark sat in a small room on Earth, sifting through its most classified files. "You need to see this, Commander," he said, his face pale as he transmitted the data to Walker's office. Walker and Steele stared at their screens in growing horror as they read the true history of the Galactic Council. It wasn't just the story of advanced civilizations guiding younger races. It was a chronicle of systematic suppression spanning thousands of years. "They didn't just hold other species back," Steele whispered. "They actively destroyed civilizations that developed too quickly or in ways they couldn't control." The files showed everything. Peaceful species who developed unique technologies suddenly destroyed by natural disasters. Promising young civilizations redirected down technological dead ends. Entire races trapped in endless cycles of development and collapse. "Sir," Mark's voice shook slightly. "There's more. The Council, they're not really the most advanced species in the galaxy. They just got to everyone else first." Walker's jaw tightened as he read further. The Council's founding species had been among the first to achieve spaceflight, but their technology had stagnated centuries ago. Instead of advancing, they had focused on preventing others from surpassing them. "Get this information to our allies," Walker ordered. "Every species in the Alliance needs to see this." The response was immediate and overwhelming. Ships from dozens of worlds converged on Earth, their crews demanding action. The Council had manipulated them all, steering them away from innovations that might have threatened Council dominance. In the Council's Grand Chamber, Ambassador Gray received the reports with growing panic. How did they access the archives? "It's not possible." Actually, it was pretty simple. Mark's voice came through their supposedly secure channels. "Your security was perfect, by Council standards. But you never considered that someone might try something as primitive as a brute force attack combined with quantum computing." The Council chamber erupted in chaos as the truth spread. Older species who had suspected but never known for certain. Younger races learning for the first time how their development had been crippled. Even some Council members were shocked by the extent of the deception. Walker addressed them all, his message broadcasting across the galaxy. "For centuries, the Council has claimed to protect civilization. Instead, they've been protecting their own power. They called us primitive because we didn't follow their approved path. The truth is, they feared any path that might lead beyond their control." The evidence was undeniable. Files showed how the Council had deliberately destroyed research into technological alternatives, how they had sabotaged species that showed too much promise, how they had hidden the existence of civilizations that had found different paths to the stars. "But their time is over," Walker continued. "Earth and its allies represent everything the Council feared. Different species working together, sharing ideas, finding new solutions. We've proved that diversity makes us stronger, not weaker." Steele added her own message. "To any species watching this, know that you were never primitive. Your unique approaches to technology, to space travel, to artificial intelligence, they weren't wrong. They were just different. And different is exactly what this galaxy needs." The Council's chamber began to empty as representatives of younger species walked out, their faith in the ancient institution shattered. Even some of the older species, seeing the full truth for the first time, began to question their loyalty. Ambassador Gray watched helplessly as millennia of careful control crumbled. "You don't understand what you've done," he protested. "Without the Council's guidance, there will be chaos." "No," Walker replied firmly. "There will be progress. Real progress, not the carefully controlled imitation you've forced on the galaxy. Tomorrow, we reshape the galaxy together. as equals. The revelation had done what no weapon could. The Council's power was built on lies, and humanity had exposed them all. The next move would change everything. The combined fleet of Earth and its allies filled the space around the Council's capital world. Ships of every size and design, each representing a different path to the stars, each a testament to the innovation the Council had tried to suppress. Admiral Thomas stood on his bridge, watching the final pieces fall into place. All ships in position, Commander Walker. The Council's defenses are surrounded. In the Council chamber, the remaining loyal members huddled together, their powers slipping away with each passing moment. Ambassador Gray stood before them, his gray skin now pale with stress. "You must see reason," he pleaded over the communications channel. "Without the Council's guidance, the galaxy will descend into chaos, each species developing dangerous technologies without control." Commander Walker's response was broadcast to every ship, every world watching this historic moment. "The only chaos here is the natural chaos of growth and discovery, something you forgot long ago." The Alliance fleet moved forward in perfect coordination. Earth's hybrid ships led the way, their modified Council technology confusing the capital's defenses. The Star People's crystalline vessels phased through the supposedly impenetrable shields. Ships from the desert worlds absorbed and redirected the defensive fire. "Look around you," Steele added, gesturing to the diverse fleet. "Every species here developed their technology differently. The Council called them all primitive because they didn't follow your approved path. But together, they're stronger than anything you could build." In orbit above the capital, Mark's voice came through the comm. "Their final firewall is down. We have control of their defensive grid." The Council's last fleet, held in reserve around their capital, found their weapons powered down, their engines disabled. Not by force, but by the combined technological expertise of a dozen primitive species working together. "The Council chambers are sealed," Gray announced desperately. "You'll never breach them." Walker smiled. "We don't need to." He nodded to Steele, who transmitted a signal. Throughout the Council complex, hidden quantum receivers activated. They had been smuggled in months ago, disguised as harmless decorative items gifted by various species. The Council's own security systems, supposedly the most advanced in the galaxy, shut down. The massive doors of the Council chamber opened. Walker, Steele, and representatives from each allied species walked in. The scene was broadcast across the galaxy. The moment when the Council's power finally ended. "The galaxy doesn't need controllers," Walker announced. "It needs cooperation, innovation, the freedom to find new ways forward." One by one, Council members stood, accepting the inevitable. Some even looked relieved, as if freed from a burden they hadn't known they carried. "What happens now?" Gray asked quietly. Steele stepped forward. "Now we build something new. A true alliance, where every species is free to develop in their own way, where we share knowledge instead of hoarding it, where different isn't primitive, it's valuable." The changes began immediately. The Council's archives were open to all species. The restrictions on technological development were lifted. The careful walls that had kept civilizations separate crumbled. In the days that followed, the galaxy transformed. Species that the Council had kept apart began working together, combining their unique technologies in ways no one had imagined possible. Progress that had been stifled for centuries exploded forward. 1 month later, Walker stood in the same chamber, now transformed into the headquarters of the new Galactic Alliance. Representatives from hundreds of worlds filled the seats, each bringing their own ideas, their own innovations. The Council thought advancement had to follow a single path, he told them. They forgot that the universe is infinite, and so are the ways to explore it. They called us primitive because we were different. But being different wasn't our weakness. He looked out at the assembled species, former enemies now allies, primitive races now equals. Being different was humanity's greatest strength, and now it's the galaxy's greatest strength too. The age of the Council was over. The age of innovation had begun, And somewhere out in the vast universe, new species were emerging, ready to find their own paths to the stars. This time, they would find not a council waiting to control them, but an alliance ready to welcome them, just as they were. The future was unlimited at last.